What's going on, guys? This is the Rod. I'm here hosting today for the podcast 20 to 40. What we try to do is take everything that we learned as a group when we were all friends in high school and college when we were 20, and now we're all 40 or 39 and a half. And we just want to give you all some tips, nuggets, let you guys know, some of the mistakes we made, some of the good things, some of the good decisions we made, and hopefully it helps somebody out listening. So again, my name is Sarad. I'm a government employee. I already had this written out, so I already tried to change it before we started. I'm just going to read off my script. I made good money with the government, but yet I'm still in debt. So this is why I'm like, all right, listen to me, but don't do everything I did, and that's why I'm on here. We're not a perfect group, but hopefully you get some nuggets and listen to us. So Aubrey and Steven can go next.
Man, father, physical therapist, fitness and nutrition entrepreneur, and an investor and trader, and just love like learning new things because, bro, in today's day and age, you got to stay with the multiple streams. Never again will I do one stream of income, and that's one of the biggest things I learned. So fired up.
Here we go.
What up? I'm Steven. I'm an attorney, father, just bought a new home, dabble in the stock market. And I just came out here because I thought, just kicking wisdom. I wish I had someone that could have told me a little bit more game when I was younger. But, sometimes, a little bit of failure makes you go a long way. So that's why I'm on here.
All right, so a little switch up today. We always want to tie it into how it is to be 20 and what it means to be 40 and all the stuff that happens in between that 20-year timetable. So one thing that I was thinking about to host a new topic was relationships. I think it kind of gets pushed to the side when really, like, if you're going to be a successful entrepreneur, business owner, I know there were times where I was gone doing real estate all day. My wife is stuck with the baby. I have to go East Coast, West Coast, show houses here, show houses there. So relationships are really important. One person that I look up to that people hate is Kevin Samuel. He's a little harsh, right? He'll call you fat. He called somebody a fat fuck one time, and all that. But I think I like that approach of not necessarily babying information to people and letting them know it's hard out there. And if you're not being smart, you're going to end up in a situation you don't want to be in. For instance, every show we see on TV talking about 6 foot, 100,000. Yo, we trying to drop these numbers to y'all. Ain't nobody making 100,000 like that. We're shopping these numbers to y'all. 6 foot is a very rare height, okay? And it's not just for the ladies because these fellas out here, well, I want this, I want that too. Well, bro, you work in, no offense to these cats, but you work in the warehouse at Lowe's. That, little dime piece ain't looking at you like that, bro. She's looking for the 6 foot, 100,000. That's what we about to get into, the harsh reality of what happens when you're out there, chasing a dream but not being realistic about your future and the setback that it's going to cause. The setback that I'm talking about that I think Steven's going to give us about, we only do about 45 minutes, but he'll probably give us about 2 hours on is when you don't use a condom, people. And now both the woman or the man, now you're in a predicament again, setting you back for your future because somebody looked good at the time and you weren't really thinking about the future situations that you could be in. So we don't have a crystal ball. I think we can all speak to the situations we're in. I waited till I was 30 to have a girlfriend, not because it was like completely part of my plan, but it was just I was seeing things around me and I tried to make smart decisions about that. And it's been 10 years. We have a 3-year old, one kid. My finances aren't tight because I do have other kids somewhere else or multiple kids with my wife now. So the first question I'll start off with, as I just kind of jumped around, and we'll clean it up a little later, is what are the pros and cons of having fun when you're in your 20s, right? But making bad decisions and how that affects you later in your future endeavors in life, financially, mental, physical, and whatnot.
Steven, you want to rock us? Start us out.
Yeah, I was previously married, so I have an ex-wife. So I have my oldest daughter from my previous marriage, and you know, it does. Not only in just building, right? Like obviously, we're all trying to sit here. But one of the things we always talk about from week to week is just building, right? And while you're here, you're trying to build somewhere. And I think you're right. I think relationships are can make or break whether or not you're going to be successful, right? Like not saying that an unsuccessful relationship will break you, but definitely toxic relationships will break you, right? Like that back and forth that gets so heated that domestic violence is something we see a lot of, right? And how just that process can take you back, because then now that's the criminal process, right? And then if you have kids, how that hurts you in seeing your kids and stuff like that. And I do child support, so I see it all the time of people out about having a good time, and then boom, now you have an obligation because you had a kid, and whether or not you like that person or not is totally irrelevant, right? Like, obviously feelings change over time amongst people, and I think one thing, people that get into a situation where now you're paying child support and stuff is, I would say a majority of the people, obviously majority of the people I see, are men paying child support because the women tend to have the children. And that's not saying that they have an exclusive right to them, because as a parent, you guys have 50-50, regardless if you have a court order or not, right? Like, you don't need a court order to tell you that I'm your parent and I have just as much say so as mom does. And I have just as much right and access to the child that mom does too. But I think we see a lot right now in society where it's a presumption that mom has the kids because of mom. But it's just, real life is, most of us men are out there working and grinding. I'm not saying women aren't either, but it's also easier in the early stages of a child's life to be with the mother, because food and everything that comes with that. We all have kids, so we've seen it. Like, for a woman to connect with a baby, they're connecting in the womb. We don't get to really connect until the baby is out, and we can actually start doing stuff and holding and taking care of, right? And I think that's what kind of happens. And most men aren't set up with cribs and everything in an apartment, so they can have that equal custody type situation. But if it doesn't happen that way, right, then you're going to be paying child support. Like, if the child is with mom and the kids are on assistance, whether it's Medicaid or TANF or all these state assistance, you're going to be paying child support. Now, each state is different, so the way we do it here isn't going to be the same that they do it in California or Florida, New York, wherever you live. Everywhere is different because they're allowed to do it that way. But it is a fine. In some place, like, I'll take for North Dakota example, we just look at whoever's going to pay. Whoever's going to pay the child support, whoever doesn't have custody of the child, they're going to pay child support. And all we do is we just look at what you make. So if you have a job, we look at your taxes, or we look at your pay stubs and stuff, come up with a number, and it's just math. Like, it's just straight math. That's the crazy part about it. Like, there's deductions and stuff because of, like, how if you have health insurance, if you have other children, there's all these little factors that go into a deduction. But you're going to pay something. And even if you have no job, dead broke, I can guarantee you in North Dakota, unless there's like some type of exception to it, you're paying $190 a month. Every month. And if you think, oh, I'm not going to pay it, well, if you're working, they're just going to send an income withholding order to your employer, and they're going to take it out even before you even catch a check.
Crazy.
So I 1,000% agree. But this is also the other caveat is, all the people I see is because they can't work with the other parent, right? So no matter, at the end of the day, right, if you can co-parent, and at least, whatever the situation has happened, you have a child, and you're going to have to support that child in that relationship. Whether or not you have a good or bad relationship is really on you as a co-parent. So, but there are things that can hold you back. And that is one thing I see a lot of men held back on, because you also have to think, no matter how much you pay, you also have to survive at the same time. So while they're taking that, now you have to try to live off of
what's left,
$90 a month less, right? And so that is going to affect how you are able to then save or invest or buy real estate and stuff, because you have this obligation that's going to follow you until you're 18, until the child's 18 or 19 here, if they're still in high school. And it's either 18 or up until their 19th birthday, if they're still living with the parent and enrolled in high school. So you know how some people graduated at 19, you could still catch it all the way up until your 19th birthday, or whatever ends last. That's the crazy part. So say you turn 19 in January, you still catch it all the way until graduation day. So that's that. So I'll throw it to Aubrey, because I feel like I was rambling on about child support.
They said, and then yesterday they lost the papers to my last case, and I'm like,
yeah, man. It's I think this is one of the big things in life, is your partner. It's like, I think later you kind of see how much it affects your life, but when you're younger, you can't really understand the implications of how big of a part in your life a partner plays because you kind of grew up without one. So you can't really understand that. And I think one of the biggest things that hurts people or helps people, especially when you're younger, is like chess. You got to start thinking 2, 3, 4 moves down the line. When we're young, the brain isn't fully formed, especially in males, until about 25. So I get it, because I look back at some of the decisions I made. I was like, that was really stupid. Because we're really not, and even in the brain, we can't understand. But maybe from this podcast, you can be like, damn, let me start at least thinking a little bit. Like if I do have, like, I can never understand how people get surprised with having a kid if you had unprotected sex. Like, it's like 1 + 1 = 2.
Be mad as hell too. What you mean?
I know. What you
What?
mean? Like, bro, you know what you did? You shot up the club.
Bro, you was there.
You was there, homie. But yeah, so you got to understand that unprotected sex leads to children. That's just how it is. And whether it's good or bad, it's like you got to really start thinking 2, 3, 4 levels down the line. If you do have a child, are you ready for that and everything that brings along? You know, financially, time-wise, with this person. And there's never a reason where you should be having unprotected sex with somebody you're not really trying to have that result with. That just doesn't make sense, because it's like playing with fire and then getting surprised why you get burnt. Not that having a child is getting burnt, but that's just a natural implication of playing with fire. I think maybe because my siblings came in later, like when I was about 17 is when my first brother came in, and then I had another brother, another sister. So I kind of saw in my younger ages how much time a child takes. When you're not having younger siblings, you kind of like all grew up together. You can't really understand how many diapers, going to get formula, working all day, then coming home and having to take care of another person, like all this stuff that goes into a kid. And even when I saw it, I didn't see everything. It's a lot. So when you start thinking about that, you're like, damn, this is not even a part-time job. This is another full-time job. And money-wise, because you start thinking about diapers, formula, clothes,
Daycare.
medical,
Daycare.
like, damn. And I think maybe where I kind of saw it is like we would have homies or friends in the circle that once they had a kid couldn't do as much with us. Like they couldn't come out to the club. And that's kind of how I thought in those days. Like, damn, you missing out on the club. That's a big cost. That's just how I thought in those days, right? So I think that kind of taught me like, yo, we got to pay attention to kids. And then later, you know, maybe we'll get to this on the second one, is like I started really thinking about, okay, not just accidentally having, but who do I actually want to be with? I think is really something to sit down and really think about, versus kind of this person's okay to be around, or it's not bad, or it's not the worst. Like those are really two different processes.
No, man. I mean, again, for the record, I kind of want people, because this is again a little diverse from what we normally talk about, and we just want to relate it. But you know, I voted with one count, and I think Aubrey and Steven didn't care as much, to not know the questions before we start the show. Literally, before we jumped on, I said, fellas, we're going to talk about relationships. And they don't know what I'm going to say. And I love the authenticity, because it really, I don't even know where these guys are going to go with their answers. And I like that about the podcast. That's why I watch. So I want to talk about some examples of people that I know when they were younger. I would see just profile pictures of people they talked to. And now I look at the pictures of the people they actually married, and I'm like, oh, okay, she kind of went away from that like physical attraction type that I would say, and they look very, very happy. They're raising a family. They have, you know, you can see he's successful in his business, she's successful in hers, but she's taking care of the kids. I did want to point out that's where this question kind of came from, because the people who do get smart, and again, we're not calling the kids a mistake, but who don't get to fall in that situation where they have a kid with somebody that they're not going to be with, they seem to work it out. I have seen that, but I've seen a lot of people who it doesn't work out. Scripps Ranch, growing up there, I noticed all my rich friends' parents were old as shit. All their moms were hot white blondes, and all the dads looked like wrinkly old ass like dentists and executives. That's another thing that kind of subliminally led me to the life that I had, because I kind of what you said, Aubrey. Like I realized having kids when I was older, I was probably going to be able to provide more, because hopefully by that time I do have a career, I have everything established. Daycare, we just asked because we might want to have another kid. We only have one, and they said it's $1,600. which is actually still cheap as hell because in San Diego, just for my first son, they were wanting 2,000 plus, and we found a home daycare lady to do it for 1,000. But now he's older, we pay 1,300 here. These are numbers and facts I just want to throw out. But my next question will be, piggybacking off what Aubrey kind of ended on, is how do you decide that okay, this person's gonna work? Because me and my wife kind of have a hybrid. We are traditional. Like she does the laundry, cleans a little bit more than me. I still clean, but I do the yard work. I don't ask her for no help. I clean the cat poop. I don't ask her for no help. She takes care of the baby a lot more. You know, I'm the one who has the two second and third jobs to get that income for our family. How do you decide that how you're gonna be? You know, stay at home wife. Are you cool with her having a career? But then how do you split the chores? Are you burping the baby and doing all that? Like, how do you guys split that up? Because we have a really nice balance that I don't think everybody is lucky to have sometimes.
You know, for me, you know, so me and my wife, we both work from home, right? And so and we're fortunate because my mother-in-law watches Isla Monday through Thursday, right? And so we don't have childcare costs because it is expensive. We looked at it and we were just trying to get her to when she's in preschool, right? And I, I feel like every relationship is different, right? And how I was in the beginning of our marriage definitely is not how I am now. And it's more of the fact that I think sometimes we don't communicate probably nearly as enough as we need to in our relationship. And I felt like after my first marriage, I really wanted to communicate a lot more and more effectively, right? And so always asking her like, hey, is there anything else I can do to just relieve some stress off of you, right? Because my wife, she cleans a lot and she won't ask for any help because she'd just rather get it done and it be done than sit there and have to ask somebody else to do it and then you're not doing it, she had to do it anyway, right? And so I just try to work, and I've learned how to do it, right? Because when someone doesn't want to communicate to you about it, you got to try to find ways to do it. And now I'm at a place where it's like, you know, we got to get Summer to school and stuff. So I'll take her to school, but I'll also do all the stuff for breakfast in the morning, right? Like I'll cook breakfast and everything in the morning so she can get her day started. And then I can get Summer to school. I can get back. I can try to help her manage Isla while they get ready so she could take her to her mom's, right? And by me doing a little bit more in the morning, it gives her a little bit more energy at night when she goes and picks up Isla and come home and then cooks dinner. And then I'm in charge of Isla until it's bedtime, right? Or, you know, I'm with you. I just started doing all my yard work outside, right? And I don't ask for much help, but she's also the type of person I was like, hey, can you help me carry some things in or help me break that? She's with it. Like, so I think it's all about balance, right? In balance for everyone's relationship is going to be different because no two people are alike. But I think if there is that tension, you know, communication and trying to figure out, you know, how to better help each other handle that day-to-day stress, because it's very stressful. I think my life was less stressful when I was just married, right? With no, because Summer wasn't living here. I'd have her over the summertime and she would live with her mom. So it would just be really me and my wife most of the time until summertime, until summer came. But now Summer lives with me and she goes to school with me, so she's here full time, and except for the summers now because we switched. And then we have a toddler who is always going, so it's easy to get run down. And I think staying connected with each other is communication is that way to try to stay connected because it's very easy to disconnect when all these kids are running you up the wall and life is just stressful. So I think communication and just trying to figure out, you know, what each other balances each other.
And I was asking traditional career, but Aubrey, if you can piggyback off that, how do you know in the beginning? Obviously, again, I wrote down we don't have a crystal ball, but how is somebody supposed to know that off a run meetup and you go get freaky or a Tinder date or whatever? Like, how do you start that analysis to say, is this the person who's you're not thinking about it, but if you did and we're telling them to think about it, is this the person that's going to clean the dishes or pick up after the baby or the dog and help me with my business or my career? Like, how do you do that?
Yeah, I think it's two parts. And to get to your kind of like segue, I think you really got to be thinking about all these things as you're in the pursuit of. There's kind of two ways you could be. You can kind of just be doing your thing, and you sometimes meet somebody, you're like, damn, this person's cool. I do want to spend time. But as you kind of like grow in your years, you start to see, man, I really want to spend time with a person to build something. So I need to start looking for a particular kind of person. And I think, I went on this journey and, I made some decisions about, you know what, I think why I'm not really, finding the person I want to be with is because I'm resonating down here and I'm attracting people down here. Right. And think about it, right? How many times have you really wanted to break up with a person and not hang out with a person that's fine as hell, working hard, working on themselves, fun to be around? You usually like, y'all want to be with them. But if somebody's like messing around, doing stupid stuff, lazy, you usually don't want to be with them. But if you're doing those things, that's who we attract. And I really said, okay, if I really want to be with somebody, I need to start to become the person that I want to be with. So I got to start being disciplined. I got to really get my results. I got to get my money right. I got to step up my habits. I got to stop, all this partying and hanging out and, doing whatever. Because that's not the kind of person I want to meet. I want to meet this kind of person. So that was really the first thing. And I went on a journey, 6.5 months celibate, stopped drinking alcohol, all these things to kind of elevate myself to then attract a person that was on that level. And then once I started to go on that journey, then you've got to really start seeing. And I think a lot of people let red flags go in the beginning because they're, kind of already down a path. They're like, they really want to go. And it's like, you got to really pay attention. If somebody is already not doing some things that are really non-negotiables for you in the beginning, you've got to be okay with stopping it or communicating. Always communicating, like Stephen talked about. But you got to have some non-negotiables early, because it's hard when you're 7 years down the line to be like, damn, this person always wanted to stay in and sleep in and do nothing all Saturday. And now you're mad that they're not grinding 7 years down the line, making a second job and starting a business, or don't want to take care of the kid on Saturday. You saw this on the first year, or you saw that they wanted to hike. They wanted to go start a business together. They wanted to go to the gym with you. They wanted to meal prep. They wanted to take on extra hours at their job or get a new certificate. You see all these things growing together. So really being willing to have those non-negotiables, but most importantly, you got to be those non-negotiables first. You can't be like, yeah, I want a babe that's fit and working hard and nice, and then you're unfit, eating donuts, an asshole, and don't know how to be nice to people. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing, I think, in this time and age, which is interesting, you know what? I'm not against people that want to like switch genders and all that thing. People live their life. That's cool. But I do think there is something to be said about roles. And as I've grown in my years, I've started to see like men tend to get recognition from our earning power. It's usually not like this dude's the finest dude ever. Like, it's usually like, damn, that dude he earns well. He provides for us. As males, we usually provide and protect. That's what we do. We make sure our family's taken care of financially. We make sure we got a good, solid home. We make sure if things need to get done, they get done, and we protect. And women tend to get recognized for their beauty, their nurturing, their loving, people call being in their divine feminine. That's usually the roles that we tend to take on. But where I think people mistake is they're not fulfilling their roles, but they're mad that their partner's not fulfilling their roles. Going back to Warehouse Willie, right? You're talking about, my man, you working at a warehouse in your 30s, not making much money, but mad that your girl is not, going to the gym and eating right and got the side hustle. And like, you've got to work on yourself, because there's no way you can't work on yourself and grow, and that result also in income. Warehouse Willie, bro, you can go to night school, get some more like certificates on the side, work a side hustle, start a business. We've got to be willing to do that as men, because then if we want the woman to do her position well, it's like got to be equally yoked. We can't be up here or down here and expect it to go far, because there's not that balance that distance requires. So that's another thing I really see.
Hey, I would just say this though, right? In the modern society, right? Like, more women are in the workplace, right? So that financial aspect isn't, I think, as connected as it was maybe in past generations, where we could only like what dad would go work outside the home, mom would stay in the home. Because now me and Amy are both working, right? So me just working sometimes isn't enough for her, right? Like that. So you also have to understand that you're willing to grow your role. with somebody else. Because if you're stuck in a mentality that, hey, I'm going to do this, that mentality of, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing or not, because I believe that that is how men see themselves. But you also have to be able to grow with somebody else and not just be so stuck in a path that is like, well, I go out and make this money and do this. So, you should be doing these things. And then she's like, oh, well, I go and make money too. So now what are you doing? What are you doing for me? Right. And what else can you add to her to help her and balance that out? And that's why I agree with you. I just like to say that because both parents, a lot of our, I think all three of us, we all work, us and our wives work, right? Like we are doing something, right? And so just finances alone, while I might make more, that doesn't diminish how much my wife makes and how she contributes to the household and how I should try to give back a little much. Because while I'm making more money, that doesn't dictate then I shouldn't do X, Y, Z, but maybe I should try to figure out a balance. And that's all I just wanted to say about that modern stuff.
Yeah, and I'm not saying women shouldn't work. My wife has, like, we have our fitness and nutrition business. She has her own TikTok shop business. But what I've seen is like if you want people to step into roles, I think what starts to happen is people start to mix roles. Like the woman does have to work a lot of times in these days because the household needs money. But what that has women do that I've seen is they have to start to step into their masculine. And then that role of providing starts to come from them, which is no problem. But then it starts to muddy the waters, because I think a lot of issues do come if people's roles aren't where we can go to establish the foundation for the family dynamic. Because the family dynamic, it's kind of like the body. We need a right hand and we need a left hand. Nothing is better. My right arm isn't better than my left arm, but I need a dominant arm and I need my other appendage. I need my leg. I need my ears. So understanding that we need a nurturer, we need a reproductive queen, we need a provider and a protector that main in those roles, not only those roles, but main in those roles to really get ahead. Because what happens is if you're doing only just enough, the woman does have to step in. But if you can step it up to where the woman does what she does, and that can be for her, then it takes off some weight off of her plate to be able to do more of the divine feminine things, to be able to take more care, to be able to take more care of herself, to be able to feel good. Because in the world, women feel good when they get that recognition from their looks. That's why you'll see later down the line, guys start to let themselves go physically. Women won't really do that. They'll go to a party with all women and still dress up. How many guys go to a place with all dudes and still get fly? They're like, bro, it's nothing but dudes there. Because the women aren't doing it for the dudes. They're doing it for themselves and other women because that's how their hierarchy does. Why do guys want to work so hard to make all this money, even if half the time they don't even spend it on themselves? How many wives spend the money? Because they want to be known as, this is what I created for my family. So I think really understanding those, and then I think that's where some of this, because the higher earning women are not marrying as much these days. Their wedding numbers and marriage numbers are going down. Is that good or bad? I don't know. But I could see how, just for me personally, and every guy is different, not that my wife earning more would be an issue to me, but me being able to be in my masculine with my wife earning more and directing the household, how do I play my part as a male? How do I play my part as a protector and a provider would be harder. And I could see that causing some issues in a relationship because of, I feel confused and lost. I feel like out of place. Now, could I stay home and take care of the kids, which some guys do? Yeah, I could. But then that's going to cause some issues with the male-female dynamic of the masculinity and femininity dynamic. So that's something I see as well.
Yeah, unfortunately, again, a lot of my perceptions, not just my friends, but lately or in my life of 40 years, but the perception that I see on Facebook, and like I said, Kevin Samuel, I really sit back and listen to these real life stories they were calling him. Now, again, I thought he was just some guy who got famous, but no, he has credentials. He's gone to school. He gets paid to tell these people who, again, the average caller would have two kids from a different baby daddies. One was even like laughing when she was like, I can't really tell you what he does. So I'm like, so you letting a drug dealer pop up in you? Like, what are we talking about? But then they all call him because he tries to help them get a high caliber man. You're talking six figures. And usually, like you said, somebody who cares about their figure and their shape and their fitness. Just that ideal, Bradley Cooper like type individual that women kind of fascinate over. And he tells the ones who can't, really make it a reality why they can't. So some of the things that I had wanted to add piggyback off, because Aubrey, you were taking literally all my notes, and I'm over here panicking like, dog, what am I gonna like? Shit, man. But being picky. So I personally went into the dating world since I was 20, and was like, I'm not gonna make somebody my girlfriend unless. And the list was not small. Like I didn't want necessarily to be married or date somebody who was like 5'1", 5'2", because I'm not tall myself. So I didn't want to have a little, 5'3" son or daughter one day, So college, like my wife hadn't finished college, but she was going through the process. And one that gets overlooked is the family. I didn't even have that on my list, but luckily I get along with her family. When y'all were talking earlier, that was her dad who walked in, and like, like they're here right now. We all get along. So family. I had some other picky standards, but I started getting up the range. I got to 30 and still hadn't met anybody. But then Aubrey, you hit it on the money. I had to start changing me. Like, bro, you're in the club not every night, bro. You there on when they had going up on a Tuesday. That was my anthem, baby, right? Because I'm in there on Tuesdays, like, bro, this is Taco Tuesday. I'm doing all of that stuff, right? So luckily I figured that out. Again, I keep saying lucky. I know I made a conscious decisions to do certain things when I saw, like, bro, you're getting there. So one of my questions I want to throw to you guys is, and Aubrey, you kind of touched on it, but you can expand on it. The red flags as well. I didn't ignore red flags. I would go on a date. I would sit across somebody and they'd be like, oh yeah, I go to church every Sunday. And I'd be like, you know what I'm saying? Like I didn't look it. I was chest moving. I was thinking steps ahead. Like if you go to church every Sunday, this is our first date. Why would I even waste my time doing 3, 4, 5 more? Like if you're serious, if you're just saying it to impress me, but usually they're serious. Sorry, baby mamas out there, but yeah, I have a 5-year-old. You know what I'm saying?
Did you actually ever really do that? Did you actually ever really do that?
I usually said, okay, well that's not gonna work for me. Hey, you seem cool, but I don't do, I don't do that. I didn't want to deal with baby dads. Dude, I did it plenty of times. I did. I have
diabolical. That's diabolical.
I mean, I had to be honest. But you know what? Because I had watched so many people play that stupid ass game. And then they complaining to me later. I listened when people complained and was like, man, she got 2 kids now. Her dad was. I'm like, bro, but didn't she tell you that on the first date? You didn't think that would be a possibility? You got to deal with baby daddy, and now he want to beat your ass, all that stuff. So I stayed away from it just because of that. So she could have been a great person. I didn't red flags, and that's not a red flag. But for me, it was like, I don't want to deal with that situation. I don't want to do. Oh, you don't want to go to college ever? I'm not saying college makes you the end all be all, but that was important to me. I walked away from all those situations. So because I did that, I got lucky. But I want to know your best advice, and I already kind of gave some of it, but if you want to expand on it, your best advice to somebody who's either in those early situations in their marriage right now that they're maybe not feeling a good balance, and also to people who it might be too late. Because if you were picky, 6 foot, 100,000, 6 foot, 100,000, you think you're working on yourself. I don't know. Maybe you do have that, that 8-year-old, and maybe that's why some of these men are going away, or you're that, guy in the warehouse, and maybe some of these women are going away. But what's your best advice for people who think it's either too late and things just haven't been working out, or if they're already in a relationship, marriage or other, and they're trying to keep things, stable? Because ultimately, like I said, it comes back to the finances usually, but stable for either one of them.
Steve, you want to kick it off?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, he said Aubrey, so I was like,
well, I was saying he had already kind of tapped on it, which is basically you got to fix yourself. You can't be a fat fuck like Kevin Samuels said, complaining that, man, I'll never get no high class women. It's like, bro, you need to take care of yourself. So what's your advice for people who kind of been they're 33, they're like, man, I'm doing everything right, but it's like it's still not working for them, and that's a stress on them. Or if they do have a relationship and it's not going the way they want.
I feel like sometimes we put a lot of pressure on it, right? And so when there's something you really want, it's just you just like kind of obsess over it, right? And I've always found that the times where I just kind of just is like, you know what, I'm gonna let life come to me sometimes, and not just, I'm gonna keep doing me, because you're gonna find people and you're gonna interact with people sometimes in the most weirdest places, weirdest times, And then it just is like one of those things that, oh man, this was supposed to happen, right? And because like uh when I got with my wife, like she thought I was annoying. Like she did not like me at all. And she thought I was just she didn't think I was funny, and I thought I was hilarious. And so, that's one of those things that I had to wear down. You know what I'm saying? Had to use that heat to thaw that ice. You know what I'm saying? Let me in. So, but it's just like, but if I really was like, oh man, yeah, 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 I would have never gained that friendship first or been able to, not get past that first impression of myself with her, right? And I think sometimes we tend to hyper focus on things that we really want instead of just living, right? And really just taking life as it comes sometimes. Sometimes it's good to decompress and take some time away and just like what Aubrey was saying, what he did before he wanted to, like really working on yourself is the key. But you also have to just be able to take it, right? And then when you're in a relationship with someone, not everything is going to be a peak. There's going to be valleys, right? Like when me and Amy got together, like I was a janitor at one point, right? I'm working late nights cleaning toilets in office buildings, like every night. And I had to drop Summer off at her place because she would stay over there because my ex-wife was deployed, so I had Summer and I had to just make it work, right? I was on WIC. You know what I'm saying? I had to go do those things. I was at the cash register, boop, 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 with the WIC stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like I've been grinding at the bottom and knew what it takes, but so was Amy at the time, right? And coming up with people sometimes when you can see what they're like when their back is against the wall, when your back's against the wall, and that pressure's there, right? What are you guys gonna do as a relationship, right? Like, and I guess this is kind of for the people that are married, right? Like, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? You got to make a conscious effort to either work at this or stop wasting each other's time because you ain't getting no younger, right? Like that's it. Like, and I get it. Some people are like, oh, I'll never get divorced. And but to each their own, and everyone has their own ways of thinking. But at the end of the day, you should always want to be happy. And the person you're with should always bring you happiness. And that happiness isn't always, I think as married men, we can always say it always ain't that butterfly Disney love, right? Sometimes that happiness is like, hey babe, I have to run into court real quick on a late OSC. Can you hold it down for me? And she's like, yeah. And I'm happy in the fact that I can go and do what I need to do for my job and know that things will be taken care of because my partner is there, right? Like happiness evolves. And I think in understanding that, you as a man especially have to emotionally evolve. You have to be able to understand your feelings and understand other feelings. And I feel like when I was younger, I did not care about anybody else's feelings. The only person that matters feelings was mine. And how you responded, that's on you. And now I think I'm more emotionally mature enough now to realize sometimes actions have consequences, but also that how I react to situations also matters on how others react and being able to know that with my partner and the person you're dating. And if you see those red flags in that emotional maturity, right? That was always kind of, that was one I found later on in life. But I think that is a very important thing because how a person is emotionally mature enough to handle certain situations kind of dictates how the situation can go super left real quick when someone's super emotionally immature, or how a conversation can be reconciliation and moving forward and trying to plan for that future in a tough situation as an emotionally mature person.
I think you hit on something before you go, Aubrey. Again, because I had topics, but I was like, if it don't come, it don't come. One that popped up was all these athletes with these white girls. And I sit back again on social media trying to break it down, read comments, watch videos. And one guy basically said, like, when he talked to one of his homies who's a professional athlete after college, he was like, look, man, like all the black girls that I was trying to date were all like looking for to come up already. Like I'm in college, I don't have no money, but they saw I was, and it's like they were looking. He was like, but oh, Becky with the good hair over here, she was dropping me money. She was buying my Uber. She was helping me, basically help, working her way up with him as opposed to looking for that finished product. That was a theory that I saw that I was like, oh, okay, because even, I'm not with a black woman, but I was like, it just didn't work out. The black girls I like didn't like me. So I always tell people I went to where I was like, the San Diego white girls was like, hey, well, whatever. So all right, cool. I didn't wake up and go, damn you black women, right? But I was still interested in why do other people make that decision? When Dr. Umar said it, that's when I was like, okay, that dude is as black power you can get. And even he had a segment where he was talking about the come up, the build up, where he was basically saying, sometimes it comes off as not everybody, but black women are looking for that finished product of what, what they want in a man, when sometimes that Becky will build up. So when you said that, when you talk about Wick, when you're talking about being a janitor, it's like there's a lot of women out there of all races, but I know black girls are kind of getting that kind of tagged on them from what I'm seeing lately of you might have to be with the guy when he's the janitor for a little bit to build up with him. You can't just jump to the CEO. And I think that's something that's harsh to hear because people's like, well, no, I want the CEO. It's like, but the CEO is looking for a certain, product as well, and maybe you're not fitting that. So I just wanted to add that in when you were talking about the janitor because I did have it in my notes to talk about that dynamic that I see a lot with relationships and building a family and being stable with.
Yeah, we just lost our few black women listening.
Hey, my sisters.
We want
Hey,
you
I'm trying to
back.
put you on game, my sister. I'm trying to put you on game, okay? Go get the janitor dude that look athletic and then put him in some training, get his ass on a team, you'll be good.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. That was a good one. But yeah, there's some truth to that. I think, looking back, I'm very, very fortunate. I think three things that really helped me out that I think made a difference was the number one thing I heard from Tony Robbins. He said, you feel like you're looking for this. You're looking for this. What are you looking for? Sit down and write a list of exactly what you're looking for in a partner. I was like, damn, you're right. I've never done that. So I remember sitting down and writing out everything I wanted in a partner, every single detail, right? Fit, loving, likes to adventure, hike, wants to build something, family oriented, this and that, and this and that, and this and that, So I got it out there instead of just letting it swirl up in here, got it down. And I remember him saying everything you want, like everything you want. And then from that came the realization, am I this, right? Am I fit? Am I willing to be loving? Am I hardworking? Am I consistent? Am I communicative, right? Am I giving? Am I, family oriented? All these things. Okay, now I got to work on some of these things, committed, not promiscuous, right? All these things I want to, okay, well, I got to become that. So that was the first step. The second step that I think was really important was willing to be alone. I think this is what hurts a lot of people is that especially as we grow in our age, a lot of our friend group does get a little looser. People are working in their jobs. People tend to move. People are busy, right? 40 hours a week takes a lot out of it. It's basically half of your awake day for your whole week is your 40-hour a week work, not to mention your commute and you're tired after. So after that, your friends kind of like open up. And I feel like when you're not in a relationship, if you have that friend group to like back up on, it's cool. But if you don't necessarily have that, I think that's why people tend to stay in things that aren't that healthy because it's like, I'd rather be here than be alone. And I think you've got to be okay with being alone. It feels like an empty ledge and a like lonely ledge. And it is. It's not fun like going through a whole day and having nobody to talk to about your day. Or, I remember having like weekends and time. I'd be like, I would be afraid of alone time. Like if I didn't have school or work, I'd be like, damn, I don't want that Saturday where I literally have nobody to hang out with. That was scary for me because I felt really alone. I felt like that lonely feeling, but I knew that wasn't worth it just to be around somebody that I didn't really want to be with because it wasn't fair to me and it wasn't fair to them.
Bingo.
So I had to take that time and invest that time in working on myself, reading books, going to the gym, journaling, whatever it was to really invest in me to become that person that would match that list. And then I think the third thing, looking back at it now, I didn't see then, but I think it was really important, was being inside of a community. The only two serious relationships I've had have all been in communities. One was when in college, and one was when I was in, the Herbalife fitness and nutrition community. Because I think something naturally happens when we're in community that there's this connection and hierarchy that naturally happens in any animal species that helps us to identify a mate that we're compatible with. And I think when we're outside of that community, it's hard to understand the hierarchy because it comes into us as humans. We are hierarchical creatures. It helps us to understand who's to make the decisions. But that also helps us to understand our compatibility with another mate because there is levels, right? The CEO is going to have a hard time connecting with the secretary girl for a long time. Now, physically they might, but like
I was gonna say, is he though?
he's gonna connect physically, right, with some back shots, but like when it's time to build a family and all that,
Yeah.
it's gonna be hard. So I think that's the biggest thing is like getting into a community. It might be a run group, it might be a book group, it might be a meetup group around some hobby, it might be school, it might be work. But I think community has been a really important part of me finding somebody that I was a match to, because I think that was really important.
Final thoughts, Steven?
You know, I know we're talking about, really getting, I would say for every man, honestly, go get some therapy. You never know what kind of childhood trauma you're bringing, what kind of I think one thing that we don't talk about enough is just therapy and trying to go and just talk out some things that you don't even know what might be the issue, but you start talking about some stuff that weighs on your mind and you're like, oh, dang, I never even know that. You know what I'm saying? I think as men, we struggle in silence a lot because we all know no one cares. If your day is hard as a man, no one cares. Your spouse might care, but no one really cares about your excuses. Everyone wants to just see finished product, right? Everyone wants to see the action taken. But, for us, a lot of us, it's like, it's a lot. There's a lot of pressure on us, and especially being a black man, there's even more pressure on us with public perception, right? And I also want to say, don't let perfection stop you from just keep building. I know it sounds like we all got it all together. I ain't got it all together. I'm still imperfect. I still make mistakes. I still don't know stuff. And that's okay. At the end of the day, my mind is still to keep elevating, keep building, keep growing, keep moving forward. Am I better than I was yesterday? No? Well, then let's get better, right? Let's just keep going. And it's a thankless job. It's hard and no one cares, but people do care. And always reach out to people that you do have that relationship with, just to touch base with them. If you're having a bad day, if you're having a good day, have people you can go to that are in your corner that want to see you succeed, that'll pick up that phone call for you when times are hard and when times are good. Don't just always burden people. Let people know how you're doing good too. Like, just communicate and tap in, and just always just wherever your mind wants to take you, that's where you're going to go. So just always just keep thinking about, I don't got to be perfect. I just want to keep growing. That's it.
Final thought, Aubrey?
I think this was a really, really good topic because, money can't buy you happiness. And a lot of, males, right, think that if I just grind and get all this money, I'm going to be happy. And, Jim Carrey said it, and I think it's very true. He said, I wish everybody could get everything they want and see that it's not going to give you all the things that you think you need. It's not going to buy happiness. Just because you got a big house doesn't mean you're happy. Just because you got a fine partner doesn't mean you're happy. Just because you got a nice car doesn't mean you're happy. But a big part of happiness is a partner that you want to be with, that you enjoy being with, that you want to go on this journey called life together. And it's not a cut and dry formula. It's not easy, but it definitely is worth it. And I think it definitely does take intention. So maybe hopefully some of these tips that we gave you can just help you consciously make this decision and not just kind of fall into some relationship, because it can make all the difference for your life.
Yeah. Yeah, no, again, I'll end on, I've had one girlfriend as an adult. It was my wife, and it was because of everything you guys said. I was okay with being lonely. It sucks. Everybody had somebody they were dating. I had friends who just jumped into relationships. So they always had New Year's Eve kiss, Thanksgiving dinner with somebody. And I used to just sit in my apartment by myself. Again, it wasn't great, but I knew that it'd be a waste of time to go to Thanksgiving dinner with a girl who might actually like me, and I'm not feeling the same way. We were friends for a year. We met through her sister, so that definitely helped, being friends first. They're cliche things, but this is just one example of it did work. I didn't have to chase 16 different girlfriends and meet 50 different parents. I had one girlfriend, made one, and everything was working there. I didn't put pressure on it. We just went with the flow. We argued and fought every night after leaving a bar or drinking all that. But the next day, again, Stephen, to your point, the mental capacity of us not carrying it on or expanding on it was what we knew was working. So even though we were fighting like every Saturday night, it didn't feel malicious or anything. It was just blame it on the alcohol, alcohol, and then we go get breakfast and we were good. And then we both learned how to talk to each other because I talk like this, you know what I'm saying? I'm like this, and I was like, yo, that's your girl, not your homie. Oh, you can't talk to her like that. But she was my first girlfriend. So that's why I told her when we got married, like, thank you for your patience, because I'm over here talking football. Speaking of football, I need to wrap this up. All right, guys, thank you for joining the 20 to 40 podcast. This is episode 15. We were talking about relationships. The NFL is back. Hey, you guys gotta go follow us, social media, Instagram. Look, I ain't never been so hyped. Football, baby, let's go. But no, we appreciate you guys tuning in. I'm gonna just wrap it up right there because I lost my train of thought.